We're here to speak to you about Woodlane Village, in the structure of the form of who, when, where, what, why and how.
Plastic View, better preferred as Woodlane Village, is situated east of Pretoria in Moderated Park. This informal settlement sits amongst the most exclusive estates and land in Pretoria. The settlement is an indicator of the vast imbalances and a systematic failure within our city, sitting silently on valuable land amongst extravagant residential estates. The settlement has an estimation of 8,000 to 10,000 inhabitants on a land of 12 hectares, with approximately 1,665 informal structures on the land.
This is a Woodlane Village timeline. So in 2001, this date establishes the first signs of occupation in Woodlane Village. In 2003, the Tswelupele Step-by-Step, founded by Denise and Colin Dredge, highlight the struggles and conflicts that the settlement faced. In 2006, 2,000 to 3,000 people were documented in Woodlane Village. In 2008, a court order was brought into existence in terms of the area where the occupants currently reside and ordered the identification of the individuals residing in the area. In 2009, Judge Du Plessis made a court order to see the fencing off of the demarcated area. Also in 2009, the settlement was recognized in a restricted area alongside the boundaries of Moderated Park Church. This formalization caused the settlement to be more supported and protected against illegal violent attacks. In 2009, this also dates the official naming of Woodlane Village. In 2012, after 2 months of 2009 issue court order, City of Tshwane was to evict individuals that were not in the demarcated areas. In 2014, a court order was issued for the repair of the fence in Plastic View for more security and the conduction of a verification exercise. The city was ordered to start eviction. The municipality, in 2015, the municipality threatened to sell the property on which Woodlane Village was founded, together with lawyers for human rights and Tswelupele Step-by-Step. The court case was won and the people residing on site were allowed to stay in Woodlane Village. Yet, the municipality failed to provide services for basic needs. In 2018, the Informal Settlements Forum began. The aim was to coordinate with different stakeholders to mobilize interested individuals and parties to discuss and find short or long-term solutions that would be sustainable regarding Woodlane Village. In 2020, 8,000 to 9,000 people were documented living in Woodlane Village. In 2023, Woodlane Village is still existing in the same location with rapid population growth and face many challenges.
In South Africa, almost 5 million people estimated to be living under these informal living conditions in and around the metropolitan areas. This is an indicative of magnitude of this issue and the urgent need of addressing socio-spatial upgrades locally and nationally.
Residents of informal settlements include economic migrants from within the country as well as from neighboring countries, and represent all age groups, genders, and variety of income levels, although most would be considered of a low-income group. They also struggle with fitting into society and finding their feet between the diverse cultures of Woodlane Village. It is said that politicians as well as citizens tend to be hostile towards immigrants. 54% of South Africans are opposed to let immigrants have access to housing, and 55% are opposed to the government providing shelters for refugees. One of the previous ministers of Home Affairs said that immigrants would be, and I quote, absorbing unacceptable proportions of housing subsidies and adding to the difficulties we will be experiencing in healthcare. This doesn't only highlight the negative attitude of South African citizens, but also highlights the negative attitude of national leaders. Non-national human rights commission states that regardless of undocumented migrant status, people must still be treated with dignity and respect. Refugees are granted protection access to the Refugees Act 130 of 1998. To provide for the reception, this includes to provide for the reception into South Africa of asylum seekers, to regulate applications for and recognition of refugee status, to provide for rights and obligations following from such status, and to provide for matters connected therewith. Non-nationals face a number of challenges accessing their rights. They experience procedural difficulties with the application and a determination process for relevant documentation related to their immigration status, accessing basic services such as health, education, and shelter. as well as problems relating to social integration.
Without a collective seat at the table, residents of informal settlements cannot make a meaningful contribution towards the co-production of space as described by Lefebvre, so that their voices cannot be included in the implementation of policies pertaining to them. High-level data collection, surveys and imposed intervention strategies fail to include the communities themselves in unpacking the micro-scale challenges and potential solutions that could serve to address immediate concerns. Through the continued exclusion of communities in the process of research and production of knowledge, policy instruments remain ineffective in addressing the most pressing concerns in these settlements.
Behind all these laws and regulations exists a community faced with day-to-day challenges and fears, living in very harsh conditions.
Our aim is to document conditions impacting on wellness and human dignity in these settlements. It is our view that the socio-spatial inequalities of the past need to be remedied through meaningful collaboration and negotiation by all parties concerned. Our position is that we may be able to, through research, unblock some of the issues that often delay or derail these processes. The research outcomes will reflect the views and voices in the emerging urban society.
The Unit for Urban Citizenship, UUC, is a collaborative studio between the University of Pretoria and Chalmers University, Sweden. It strives to develop the scholarship of civil engagement and participatory development within the context of a complex, emergent African urbanism, and embed a culture of responsible and collaborative urban citizenship in the communities within which we work. The studio has been running for 6 years, wherein research methodology through a partnership approach and curricular engagement is used to develop a holistic understanding of the complex challenges faced by communities living in formal settlements around the city of Tshwane. We are following the NRF-funded research project called Stitching the City, developed to assist students, researchers, and community members to collect various forms of fine-grained data that could inform macro views of urbanizing trends, challenges, and opportunities in the city. The studio is a holistic collaboration between the UP Honours, Improv, and Chalmers Reality Studio. Our guidance team consisted of Dr. Karen Kumbrek and Jason Ubholzer. We are also collaborating with interns for data collection. Guided by our community leaders from Woodlane Village, we worked in collaboration with Titsi, Primrose, Shadrach, Francis, and Selena. It is important to mention that the community leaders were heavily involved in the research process and were largely taking the lead.
Our student team from the University of Pretoria consisted of Monique, Robin, Jeannie, Lene, Ivana, Lane, and Ruline. Our student team from Chalmers University in Sweden consisted of Wilhelm, Yuru, Fatima, Hannah, Clara, and Camilla. Through a partnership approach, focus was given to facilitate collaboration between all stakeholders. All those involved in this program will be encouraged to offer input into the development of our shared vision of Woodlane Village that would be put to the city of Tshwane in a position to understand and cater for the complex needs and requirements of all affected parties in the area. These stakeholders include the NRF, SA Cares for Life, the Urban Citizens Studio, and the Reality Studio.
We looked at initiatives from the international to the local scale. The Global Action Plan for Informal Settlement Transformation consolidates a collective partnership vision of shaping cities for all, leaving no one or no place behind. It is designed as a contribution towards accelerating the implementation of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals and the new urban agenda in informal settlements. The SDGs were signed by the Republic of South Africa. The 2030 goal is that all people should have access to adequate, safe, affordable housing and basic services. On the national front, we looked at the upgrading of informal settlement program, which is an incremental process of upgrading informal settlements in situ. Relocation is here not the primary goal, only a last resort. It aims to involve communities in the incremental upgrading of their residences and to reduce the disruption of upgrading. The UISP follows a 4-stage process. Phase 1 entails determining the number of beneficiaries and existing leadership structures that could help guide the participation process. Phase 2 is the acquiring of land and provision of interim basic services. Phase 3 is the formalization of land ownership and the construction of social amenities. Step 4 is determining with whom the responsibility of building the housing lies. either with the community or the municipality.
As students, we have been reading Nabil Hamdi's book, The Placemaker's Guide to Building Community. He is a qualified architect, professor, and author. Award-winning housing projects established his reputation in participatory design and community action planning. Hamdi has consulted on the upgrading of settlements in cities to organizations worldwide. Our research methodological approach is based on his framework of site analysis, engagement, and outcomes. It focuses on working with people and communities to understand their lives and needs. On the right is the framework as adapted by the UUC-UP Honours Studio of 2021. The Community Action Plan, or CAP, was developed by Reinhard Goedhart and Nabil Hamdi. It is an approach to planning that empowers communities in the design, implementation, and management of their own settlement programs. It emphasizes characteristics of participation, community-based, and problem-driven. We worked mostly within the first two keystones, where we did an augmentation through a needs assessment and a social network analysis. First, we will identify urban issues by reviewing the data collected, summarizing the issues, reviewing community issues, and making community observations. This led us to identify problems, cause, and the impacts thereof.
Framework in hand, we entered Woodlane Village, having discussed topics of what we felt might be some of the arising issues in the settlement, based on previous teachings, literature, and media read. This formed the basis for our introduction, to which consisted of a transect walk with community leaders in order to gather our first impressions and observations. The initial topics of interest identified were found through a needs-finding workshop, which is a tool established by Hamdi. These general topics of interest were gender roles and safety, the child's perspective of Woodlane Village, skills and capacity building, kitchens and cooking activities, and agriculture and biodiversity. From our initial observations, group chose their areas of concern to further research. Our groups emerged as follows. We are the Dignity Report and Power to the People. Group 1's information gathering focused on safety, empowerment, ambition, water, sanitation, income security, knowledge, and waste. Group 2's initial information gathering focus was on the fire, safety, waste, cooking, heating, building materials, and electricity.
The Ukadoba method has been developed by the University of Pretoria and Chalmers for the collection of sharing both of traditional and non-traditional types of spatial data. It aims to provide a framework to organize, manage, and share geospatial data to get improved value out of student data collection efforts. The Ukadoba method starts with fieldwork preparation. Step 1 is research design. A questionnaire was developed by the NRF. Step 2 is survey design. The questionnaire was then put on Survey 123, developed by ArcGIS. Step 3 is data collection. This slide indicates some of the main tools that we implemented as part of the Ukadoba method to capture information. We collected data through structured interviews that are geolocated on ArcGIS, informal interviews, interactive mapping, sketches, and photographs.
We sorted the groups under the relevant themes on the 6th of March and started conducting questionnaires with our group leaders on the 7th of March. We had 149 participants in the settlement. The map indicates areas where questionnaires were conducted.
In Hamdi's book, a section titled Reflections, Getting Answers to Questions You Didn't Ask, cautions us as architects not to impose on our own assumptions on perceived risks over those of the community. Group 2 noticed many community members expressed that they were not very concerned about the risk of fire. Rather, their immediate concerns, expressed through the questionnaire and informal interviews, were the access to clean water in the area, which is a need for survival, and a growing concern for the waste and black water streams running through their streets and community as a whole. Hamdi writes about creating plans to address the needs of now, acting soon, and working towards the long-term visions of later. We felt that the new insight gained was eye-opening, and with this in mind, our group felt the need to pivot and change our course of action to gathering information and addressing the blackwater situation in Woodlane Village. We set out with new intentions to document the drainage infrastructure in Woodlane Village via another ArcGIS survey, and we began collecting water samples from various areas of the settlement, which are being analysed by members of the University of Pretoria's Chemical Engineering Department. Going forward, our groups noted the commonalities between our research of water, waste, and safety, looking particularly at how these factors affect quality of life and living conditions at Woodlane Village. The groups now stand as the Dignity Report and Walking on Blackwater.
Step 4 is data conversion. We converted our geolocated data and survey answers onto maps. Answers from the survey are translated to statistical charts, and interviews are depicted as storyboards. Step 5 is data analysis. The two groups had different approaches to analyzing the data,